Hello there, it's Karen here again, and today I'm doing a layout of these two pictures of my husband reading a story to our little granddaughter. And I'm using as a background a very old paper from a Scraptastic kit from a couple of years ago, which is a crate paper collection called Little You, and this paper is called Little Nose. And I decided that as they're laying on a really beautiful quilt that my cousin in Canada made for Alyssa, I try and recreate the style of the quilt using some scraps from my box and these two pads. One is by Pebbles called Lullaby, and the other little 6x6 pad is by Echo Park, and it's called Sweet Baby Girl. And I thought I'd punch out a whole load of squares. They're little scallop squares that I thought I'd use to try and recreate some idea of a quilt pattern in the background of the layout. So I've already punched out a load of squares in the colours that I've picked out from the photo, so in pink and blue and yellow and green from my scraps. And now I'm picking out some from these paper pads. I had lots of strips of 2x2 strips where I'd cut off the rest to make cards, journaling cards and background cards for my pocket page album. So I had lots of strips, 2-inch strips to use up. So I've picked out a load, some of those as well. And I'm just arranging these squares in a triangular shape to try and make them look a bit like a quilt. I have a go at trying to put a design all around the page, as you'll see. It's not the most successful design, so just bear with me for a little while I have a go at trying to make a cohesive design that looks fairly that seems to work and fit on the page. But as you can see, it doesn't really fit, and I have to abandon the idea of doing the squares this way round. Picking out all lots of different patterns and colours, but all trying to keep pastel and keeping with the pattern on the quilt on the photos. I'm just trimming down my background paper. It's not very clear to see, but it's got little tiny pink and a few grey triangles all over it. So this is the pattern I ended up with, just keeping them square and just going all around the page. And actually I think that works quite well. It looks like they're laying on a quilt, or that the photos are laying on a quilt. And I'm just backing the photograph with another piece of pink scrap that I had, pink and polka dot. And I found this little frame. This is one from the June Hip kit I've been using up. It's from Pink Fresh Studio. We had a pack of frames, and I've used quite a few of them. I think I've got one left now. And I thought that blue one worked quite well on that small photograph, that close-up of my husband and Alyssa laying and reading the story together. She's completely riveted. She loves being read to. And I just put it on a piece of blue backing paper card just to give the frame something to stick to, because the photo didn't perfectly fit in the frame, but once it was stuck on that piece of card, it gave the frame something to stick to, and you can't tell that it's not quite the right size. It does just about fit in the space without showing any gaps around it. And that frame just says "Just Do Fun," and the colour worked really well, so I thought that would be quite a nice frame to use. And then I'm just backing that photo on that pink paper, as I said. And I'm just going to pop both of the photographs up onto a piece of foam. So this one's going to go on first, just to lift so that it'll just pop above the squares that I've used for the background, and just so I can overlap them a bit without it being too flat, give it a bit of dimension. But before I actually stick any of that down, and I'm sorry about this sun going across from the window going across the layout, it just suddenly came out, and I didn't really notice that it's rather brightened up half the page and made the rest in shadow. So I'm using a gelato with some texture paste by Ranger. I've bought that to replace the modelling paste I've been using, which I found very claggy and sticky, and I like the Ranger texture paste much better. And I've mixed it with this bit of gelato. It's a sort of peachy pink, and this is a really old stencil from Scraptastic. It was in one of my, they used to do a free stencil with every kit when you were subscribing. And I've kept all my stencils, and every now and again I bring them out. And this one I really like because it's XOXO all over, which seemed really appropriate. So I just thought I'd put a little bit on one side of each of the photos. So to the left of the big photo and to the right of the smaller one. And then I decided the bigger photo needed another layer, a softer layer. So it's got the pink background, but actually I felt it just needed a little bit more. So I brought out the good old Hip Kit tissue paper. It's quite a favourite. I use it a lot in that gorgeous minty green aqua colour. So I thought I'd give it a little soft layer of that and then put the foam on to lift it up. I'm just going to stick that on. And I just wanted to do something mixed media in the background, just so that it wasn't completely plain. And I'd thought about doing a bit of packaging technique and that, but I always get in such a mess with that. I've decided I'm not going to risk it. I've got this far, so I thought I'd just do a bit of modelling paste, which would just give it a little bit of something, a little bit of dimension. And I'm just picking out a few embellishments here. I'm not going to use loads. I like that little bunny on the top right corner and the balloon. For some reason, they don't have any particular place there. I just quite like them. But I don't really don't want the ones that are over the small photograph. They're too big and they don't really work, so they'll be going. I should be moving them soon. But first I'm going to stick down the photo. Now that I've got an idea of where it's going to go and what I want to tuck around it, I thought I could stick that one down and the bottom one as well. I'm afraid the layout's just a little bit out of shot at the bottom there. You should be able to see most of what I'm doing, but I'm sorry you can't quite see the whole layout in one go. I hadn't realised it had slipped down a bit and gone a little bit out of view. So I'm just going to work on my title. And I've picked out 3 different alpha sets. This one is one by Pinkfresh Studio, and it's from the Dream On collection. It's one we had in a Hip Kit some time ago. And it's that lovely curly font, which is really nice to use, and I really like that. And then the width is a sticker sheet, the little alpha tiles by Pretty Little Studio. And then the blue font, which I've spelt out Grandad with, is an exclusive Hip Kit font. It's a puffy font, a puffy alpha. And that is, I've used that for Grandad. So it's just story time with Grandad. And he doesn't get to see her as often as I do, so he really enjoyed his time just laying on the floor with her and having a read of a book, and she just was riveted. She loves being read to. It's lovely to watch. And I've got a few little extra bits down at the bottom, a couple of little flowers that were in the embellishment. I think this is the Lullaby embellishment kit that matches the paper pad that I used, or one of the paper pads I used. And then there's a little, what do you call it? It's a little die cut chipboard, a little chipboard book that was on a sheet that I had in my stash. So I thought, well, the book was appropriate, so I've popped that down there as well. And the colour, the yellow, picks out some of the yellows in the background papers. And I'm just sticking down that balloon. I've put it on a bit of foam just that it sits nice and snugly next to the photo. And then I've got out my rub-ons, my butterfly and dragonfly rub-ons. I've been using quite a lot of these in my little book that I've made for Alyssa, and they make quite a nice little embellishment. And I thought, actually, because I've got the black with the Storytime, it'd be quite good to have a couple of little black elements as well. So I'm going to put on a couple of those around the photo. So I've got the bigger one, the dragonfly, on the top left corner, and I'm going to do a little butterfly down there by the book. So I'm just going to rub them on. I was a bit concerned because I've had these rub-ons quite a while, and I know that rub-ons sometimes stop working or don't rub on properly after a while. But I've had these while they're like Kaisercraft. They're really good ones. I've got my little rub-on tool there. I think it's a Tim Holtz tool, I think, or something like that, or Ranger. And it's got like a ball at the end of it, and you just rub and rub and rub. I rubbed quite hard because I just wasn't quite sure. I'm always a bit wary when I'm doing rub-ons as to whether it's going to come away as I pull the backing off, but it was working. I just had to be a bit careful with it and see how it goes. It's just coming away, and I'm just taking it very gently. There we are. And it's on there. Might be one or two little tiny bits that didn't catch, but on the whole it's there. And then I'm going to do the same with the little butterfly and tuck it under the book. So, yep, I haven't stuck the book down yet. Well, it's self-adhesive, but you know what these chipboard pieces are like. They never stick for very long, so I thought I'd just take it aside so I can put the butterfly and just have that tucked under. There it is, it's stuck on nicely. And I'm just going to stick down the little book. And I was just trying to decide if I needed anything else around that photograph in that space there. So I've got out some trusty flowers. I do love me flowers, but I try to tuck them in, but they weren't really right. They were a bit too big and they didn't really fit. The colours were okay, but and as you can see, I really tried to see if I could find a space for them, but in the end I don't. In the end they don't make it on the layout, but I'm going to keep trying and trying different ones, different sizes, just to see, is it going to work? No, it's not going to work. Move on. So then I brought out these little enamel shapes, and I thought, well, I'll just have that little tiny one and tuck that at the top there. It's a little tiny bird on a branch with a nest. I have no idea why I picked that one. I just thought it fitted there. It's probably not the best thing to have chosen. By this time I decided I just need to put something there, and that'll do. Sometimes you just have to just go with it. I wanted to move on. And then I just got out my Nouveau drops, and I thought I hardly ever use these, and I thought maybe I'll just do a few spots of colour. Instead of getting enamel dots out, I'll do some little dots of different coloured Nouveau drops around the page. So I'm going to do pink ones around this corner, just little tiny dots, and just doing them around this corner. There we go. Just about, that's it, just that little bit there. And then I'm going to go, I think, top left corner. Yeah. And I've got a green one, which unfortunately you can't really see me doing. I do apologise for that. It's slightly just fallen off the edge of the camera's view. My camera's not very good at, it's kind of stuck in one position, and then it's sometimes pure luck whether I get everything in the view. Sorry about that. There we are, you can see now I'm just going around that top corner with my green Nouveau drops. It's quite a limey green, but because it's quite they're tiny dots, it's quite delicate. I didn't think it clashed too much. And then I've got a peachy coloured one as well. And then off camera, after I finished filming, I decided to do another colour, turquoisey colour, around the bottom right hand corner, which you will see in the still photographs at the end. But I didn't do that on camera. There we are. They're now dry, I think, and just in place there. So that's it done. So thank you for joining me. Do join me again soon. And I also added the date off camera, so you'll see that in the stills. Okay, bye for now.